Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting, August 16, 2023, 4 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
Acting City Attorney Coach. City Manager Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Dean. Here. Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Commissioner Kirkland.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Dean may try to it.
Commissioner Dean is here.
Commissioner Reed is here.
Oh, well, never mind. I stand corrected.
Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage. Commissioners, comments, questions? Mr. Mayor.
I did have one, but I'll wait. That's fine.
Oh, geez, you're fighting.
Comment and a question. So I'm going to put the city clerk on the spot.
Uh-oh.
So I think it was this spring, Revo was rolled out such that there's a new public comment through city leadership as opposed to our previous version of that. One of the things I discovered and what you all have on in the last few weeks is we used to get those, they were sort of auto generated, but they're not anymore. Well, they can still email us, but the Frevo output no longer comes to us, or it hasn't come to us. And I spoke with the city clerk about it a week or so ago, and I was wondering if you maybe found anything out additionally about why that's happening and if that can be improved so it can, we continue to get those in the future, the public comments that are submitted through that system.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Logan, thank you. As you said, you and I spoke about it about a week ago, and I was unaware that those weren't coming through the way they had previously. So we reached out to ITS, and what we discovered is with the security rollovers that they've done over the past several months to Microsoft has now started to filter those items that were attached that you were receiving as part of your public comment form. And putting those either into quarantine as suspicious emails or as junk. And so we're working with ITS currently to try and figure out how to reset that security so that isn't happening. Just for the public edification and for yours as well. I did speak with the PIO just this afternoon since we're still waiting on an answer from ITS about an ultimate resolution to the issue. But the public can still use the form and they are still being archived in the M-File system and they're visible to all of you if you go into that public comment form. It's just not attached to your email like it was previously. So they are still entering the system. We're going to keep working with ITS and the PIO. Like I said, we just talked about it this afternoon right before the meeting. And so unfortunately, I didn't have a little bit more information for you yet, other than we're currently trying to figure out the bug. So the form is still active. It can still be ingested into the archiving system database. It's just not working quite as smoothly as it had previously. And until you brought it to my attention, I wasn't aware that was an issue.
Thank you. So just so you know, we do have some stacking up there if you're interested in public comments and files. So.
Thank you. Your Commissioner.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, I think this actually, I was considering if I should say this during the housing development presentation or not, but I was wondering if we might be able to start thinking about an update to demolition permit sometime in the near future. This has come up a number of times over the last few years. Hamatardo is noted the need for an update for quite a while. I know that that's something community development would have to spend some time on with Pam Ricardo's office, but since I expect we'll probably be getting more over the next couple of years, particularly with how extensive the development has been within city limits, if we could make some considerations about how that needs to be updated.
Mayor, Commissioner, I think you'll recall through the budget process that you budgeted an additional 60,000 for the service, contingent on our ability to sit down with the county and all parties did the original joint resolution that created the organization. Director Brink's in that process right now with the county. I'd like to get through that particular process first, but updating demolition permit can come after that, and we have a proposal. But I'd like to see if we get through that interlocal agreement and what impacts that might have on it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Just as we're all aware, there was a fire at the Iron Front building 2 nights ago. Just want to thank the chief and the fire department for their quick response, along with the police department and chief for your quick response. The fire got put out in about an hour, and appreciate the work, but also to the businesses that are stepping up and the community members that are stepping up to help those that have been affected. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I just want to put out that there've been emails circulating around town, and I've seen a few of them stating that the city purchased land for the homeless, all that Orofino Gulch, and I'm putting out there, the city did not purchase any land in Orofino Gulch for their own house. So at this time, all we have is allocation. We have not purchased any land. Board appointments. Board appointment Helena Housing Authority. I am recommending the following board appointments. Helena Housing Authority, reappointment of Matt Dalton to a second term on the Helena Housing Authority. Term will expire August 1st, 2028. Reappointment of David Raghatty, sorry if I mispronounced your name, to a second term on the Helena Housing Authority. Term will expire August 1st, 2028. Lewis and Clark County Heritage Tourism Council. Reappointment of Sandy Smith to a first term on the Lewis and Clark County Heritage Tourism Council. As a city appointee, term will expire June 30th, 2026. Please.
This is for Madam Clerk. Was for the Heritage Tourism Council, was she filling a vacancy before reappointment to first term?
Collins, Commissioner Dean, that is accurate. Ms. Smith was filling an interim appointment. This would be her first, she's eligible for a first term.
Thanks.
Do we have any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this? Do you have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no other comment on
Thank you. Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council. Representative Andrew, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thanks to the commission for allocating $100,000 to the unsheltered homeless. That really is helpful. With approximately $1 million left, HCC is still being lobbied for ARPA funding. I think we have Paul Landis from the Helena Regional Sports Association coming next week. That's the swim complex. They're doing asking for $64,000 for a sustainability study. But HCC has already sent a recommendation for remaining ARPA funds that we voted on. That was dated February 22nd, 2023. So if you need to review that, that is available. Lastly, another concern by citizens is something Chief Petty deals with. Again, urban wildlife management, people are concerned about where that's going, deer culling. I reached out to animal control urban wildlife officer Sean McCarthy today and had a lengthy discussion talking about his management of the program and prioritizing it, and he's doing a great job. That'll be starting December 1st. We've done 2 years of counts, and the average count is 68 deer per square mile, which is up from the 25 deer per square mile recommendation. The thing that I drew from Sean was that he set up a booth at one of the Alive at 5 for public information, which is really helpful. If you caught last night's KTVH program, he also appeared talking about the feral cat program. So I guess, you know, if as the season draws closer, if education extended to the public, a lot of people aren't aware of what's being done, and social media and television would be the best way. So I think it's going in a good direction. They had a pretty successful year last year and worked well with fish wildlife park biologists. So thank you, Chief Petty.
Thank you, Representative Andrew. Andrew Burton. Report.
Mayor, Commissioners, I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Presentation, housing development map. Director Brink, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mayor Collins, Commissioners. Stephen Shirley, a planner with our department, is really our GIS whiz in our department. We'll show some of the components of the housing dashboard that we've created. This is just a small component of something larger that we're going to create to show the breadth of development across the city, commercial, residential, and all the infrastructure that goes to support it that we're in the process of reviewing and approving. So this dashboard essentially is just a small piece. And it is only currently showing those units, housing units that have gotten commission approval, either via zone change, an annexation, a preliminary plat. And then we do have some conceptual projects like our Redeemers, Twin Pines, the Twin Pines that received affordable housing trust fund money. So those numbers are in here too. And then we go back to 2021 is kind of our starting point to capture data. And as things move and progress through approval, through occupancy, you'll see the number change from the project status. But again, this is just a small piece. And those are accurate numbers of units that you've approved in some form or fashion since 2021. I'll let Stephen kind of drive and show or explain the components of the dashboard.
Oh, sure. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. I'm Stephen Shirley, new planner one with the Community Development Department. So pleasure to meet all of you in person. Madam Clerk, you can click on any one of the blue or I guess whatever that other city color gold polygons are, and it'll open up the statistics and other data underlying each subdivision, and just give an idea of the status, whether it has been approved for preliminary plat, zoning change, or annexation, as well as a funding source, if that funding source is approved by City Commission from the Affordable Housing Fund or ARPA, etc. What else? Yeah, the numbers are subject to change as site plans come in and building plans come in. You know, you may see lots occur during the preliminary plat phases, but as you get more sites and site, well, who's the word? But site plans or building plans, you get a better definition on units. So, although right now the total number, if you click off of a development and just on the map anywhere, the total number is 1362. That could go up, it could go down as developers choose their actual final layout and site plan.
Yeah, so like Stevens was mentioning, as these projects start, unit number will change depending on what they ultimately construct. And again, this is going to be, like I said, a small piece of a larger project. And once we have our EPO or Intergov up and running, we can glean more data, more detailed data included in maps and dashboards for you to filter through and get more detailed on our projects from a housing standpoint now, but it will be across the board, commercial, residential infrastructure. So the question I propose to you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, did we capture what you were looking for? Is there something in here that you would like to see that's not captured, or functionality we can include that would help you get an understanding of what has come through your door, so to speak?
Awesome, thank you.
So Mayor, just to reiterate, these are decisions that you've made within the last 2 years. We will be able to put this on the website. I think that you'll be able to use it when you're out speaking to community groups. There's a complimentary process, as Director Brink said, that will show all of the infrastructure projects throughout the city as well, which not only complements this, but expands the discussion into terms of all those projects that you've approved in the last couple of years as well. I think it brings a lot of information into one spot, and I think it helps, particularly when you're out in the community, helps you to, in a broader sense, pull numbers together, let people know all of the decisions you made. 1,362 units in the last 2 years is a pretty impressive number.
So, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is awesome. I feel like we've been waiting for this for a while, and it's great to finally be able to point people to a place where they can see where projects are. One of the questions I guess I would have is when we start adding in the commercial piece, if we can maybe, and maybe this is on here, but if there's a way for us to be able to filter like zoning types, I think it might be helpful. One of the things that I have had, we've gotten questions that there's a particular application that's being built that is, I've gotten questions about, and it's in early stages. I think we don't, unless it comes to us or we have to prove something, it's hard for us to be able to, answer questions until we come track one of you down. And so I think being able to have a better understanding of what the zoning is in particular areas or any type of restrictions that currently exist, that might be helpful to be able to toggle on and off.
Mayor Collins, Commissioner Dean, absolutely. And to reference what these numbers show. So these aren't projects that are approved by right. So you don't see these numbers yet. It's just actions that you've taken. But yes, ultimately the entire project will capture everything, either 1 or 2 units, uses by right, whatever it is.
I sincerely appreciate the presentation. It's doing exactly what we were requesting. Thank you.
Here, I would just add another element, particularly on commercial development. We add that to the map. I think it'd be interesting to know what the total value of those developments are.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you very much, Director Brink for the work on this. In addition to commercial property zoning, available land would be interesting as well, including, I know our PIO, Jacob was working on, Jacob Carson's been working on a map that discusses the TIF investments that we've made as well. I wonder if that's something that we could have a more comprehensive map to include some of that, or, you know, being a separate map is fine too, but to help tell the story fully of what we're investing in. But how, in terms of housing development, I think this is great. Appreciate it. And also to the information that you include about those developments is interesting as well. The number of units, who's building it, progress on it, etc. So thank you very much for that.
And Mayor Collins and the commissioners. So we do have, to Commissioner Sherman's question, we do have a TIF story map that we continuously add to as well. And I believe that's on the website.
Go ahead.
Just like to express my thanks as well, and this is right at the hour. Could convey to the public. So to that end, when do you anticipate this going live, and where do they public expect to see it?
So Mayor and Commissioners, probably before 5 o'clock this evening. I should have it up on the website. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure where we will place it, but we'll make sure through Jake that we'll get some PR out there to let people know where they can find this information.
Thank you.
Wanted to make sure you guys first work on that.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, public comments on this topic? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment.
Thank you. Ongoing master plan discussion. Chief Campbell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good afternoon. I'll ask Chris to once again commandeer the computer for our presentation. And you have a copy as well for your notes or whatnot. Thanks. Thank you. So reviewing the summary of the master plan and talking specifically about the staffing components of what it would take to stand up an additional fire station. We want to just review briefly the current staffing model and how we're operating. We have 36 firefighters assigned to suppression, including the 6 that were added from 2018 when the mill levy took effect. That gives us 3 shifts of 12 individuals. Because of a variety of vacations, sick, and other time off types, including Kelly days, etc., that gives us 8 firefighters per day. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 10, but we maintain that staffing level at 8 individuals per day. Any additional leave, illness, injury, and so on requires overtime to backfill those positions. And we're operating out of a 2-station model. Those individuals by contract through the collective bargaining agreement are working on average over the course of a year, 46.83 hours per week. And that's negotiated through the contract and the time off and holiday, Kelly days, and so on. Gives us that sort of oddball 46.3 hours per week. Next one, please. Some of the challenges there is what I would call lack of staffing resiliency. It means that anytime we have an illness, injury, or even a vacancy, when someone retires and it takes time to hire a new individual, train them up and move them in, it can be a pretty persistent drain on overtime to make sure we continue to meet those staffing requirements. We've seen some difficulty in the utilization of accrued time off. So as our workforce increases in seniority, so too do they add to their accrual vacation time. And when we have staffing deficits, it can be problematic for them to actually have access to the total accruals of earned time off that they generate over the years. The 6 additional firefighters from 2018, back to the older recommendations from 2006, there were 9 recommended at that time. But even with that, that's just not enough personnel to adequately staff a 3rd station. Increased call volume and the impact of the staff working out of 2 stations is definitely, as we've discussed in previous presentations, a noticeable impact to the workforce. And then there's always some potential for variability in staffing as we go through contract negotiations where we talk about leave, accrued time off, utilization therein, and then obviously pandemics and other factors that can play a role in how we staff and a variety of variabilities there. Next one, please. So as an example, and not to pick on Bozeman, but we like as examples of Montana organizations, and they're operating out of a 3-station model. So there is some variability that is inconsistent with us, but they have some parallels that are worth noting. So 4896, and we're on a 2448. They're still in a 24 day work period. Each member is getting Kelly days within those work periods, and they have 14 firefighters per shift, whereas we have 12. So they're 42 total suppression staff. Their minimum daily staffing to operate out of 3 stations then is 10. A couple of quotes from Fire Chief Josh Waldo. This leaves them understaffed nearly every day. In FY22, we had almost 8,000 hours of overtime. Primary factor behind this is short-term injuries, vacancies, and sick call-outs. So we want to include this as an example because we want to set ourselves up for success if and when we should be in a 3-station model. We don't want to be in a position that we're constantly relying on time and a half in order to meet minimum staffing requirements to operate in a 3-station system. So to summarize then, what will end up happening is we have an injury vacancy that takes up the 4th spot, so allowing up to 4 people off. And then any training or sick leave generates overtime. We honestly need 1 more person per shift just to help cover the leave, primary Kelly days, or we need to move to a different schedule. So it's somewhat of a cautionary tale. As a community, they have a ton of different variables that we may not necessarily share, but it's worth knowing that there are examples where communities are spending quite a bit more and have to manage their system around an overtime impact. And there's an opportunity for us to set ourselves up to avoid that type of circumstance. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the recommendation out of the executive summary of the master plan is the minimum number of people it would take to staff a 3rd fire station, and that would be 15 individuals. It would add 5 firefighters per shift, creating 18 firefighter shifts with a total of 51 personnel in suppression. That would allow the utilization of earned time off and hold a position that even in the circumstance of illness or injury doesn't meet the overtime threshold, thereby increasing some staffing resiliency, resulting then in a daily staffing of 12 individuals. The boxes on the bottom are just a couple examples of how that may work in terms of station allocation of those personnel. That's up to fluctuation, certainly depending on how this unfolds. Next one, please, Chris. Thank you.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
that diagram you just showed with the station 1, 2, 3, is that local or is it still Bozeman?
No, this would be our model should we have a 3rd station and the staffing to support it.
Gotcha.
Thank you for the clarification. Optimally, hiring 18 firefighters would keep us in alignment with the specific recommendations that were made by the consulting group in the master plan. That would add 6 firefighters per shift, allowing for a 13 firefighter daily minimum, creating 18 firefighter shifts with a total of 54 personnel and suppression. But again, we wanted to offer to the commission what optimum versus what minimum to successfully implement a 3-station model. We didn't want to look at the staffing circumstances through a singular lens. It would be the most expensive element of the 3rd-station model and have the longest duration of impact. So we wanted to be sure that those numbers were in alignment with some other avenues of exploring what staffing for a community like ours should look like. International City Managers Association has some differing metrics on how those staffing levels can be calculated. Their suggestion then being the math of 1.52 firefighters per 1,000 residents. So utilizing recent census data, that would equate out to 52 firefighters, 52.07, which obviously we need to be working in whole numbers there. National Fire Protection Association has some other methodologies for calculating those metrics, and they have graded scaling depending on the parameters of population. So on their calculation, given Helena's population, that would work out to 55 individuals, both of which are in fairly close alignment with what our master plan is saying and what our group that worked on the summary is saying about what the requirements for staffing for Helena based on population would be. And that doesn't necessarily include having to have a certain number of stations. It's just a population metric to calculate for staffing. So our recommendations: hire 15 personnel to increase staffing to 51 total. This mirrors the ESCI recommendation for staffing of 13 on a day-to-day basis. NFPA 1710, so National Fire Protection Association standards, discuss what engine companies should look like. That brings us into compliance with 2 companies there. And it mirrors the alignment with the ICMA and NFPA levels as well. With the caveat of hiring 3 firefighters to meet recommendations from 2006 and to fully maximize the utility of the 2-station model we're in for now. And I believe, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, that's the summary of the staffing elements of the executive summary and the master.
Thank you, Chief Campbell. Comments from the commission?
I just have one quick comment. So I think we're gonna talk about this as we continue these sessions covering what a potential 3rd station would look like. Last time it was the case for why we need a physical 3rd station. This obviously the staff to fill that. One thing I think will be helpful for everybody to be thinking about as we head into these next sessions is that it's gonna require a bond and a levy. And so what does it look like to have the education piece? This is a big part of it. The education piece of making the case to voters that, I mean, you don't want a bond to pass and then a levy to fail and you have no staff to serve those folks. I think another really big piece of this is right before this, when we had the housing development map, if you noticed, the vast majority of that development is happening in North Helena, where we don't have a station north of the railroad track. So it's a really important piece for us to keep in mind is and we talked about it last time, and it's included in that the master plan, which I would again recommend everyone read. But we really will need to have a very strong education piece to ensure a bond and a levy could be successful, because it's not helpful to have one.
Any comments from the commission? Yes, please.
Question for the manager. So so relative to Commissioner Dean's comments on bond and levy. Commission deciding now what's kind of the time frame.
So big picture, I think Chief, next admin meeting, you're on with the staffing discussion commission at the police department, correct? Then I think what I would look forward to is some direction from the commission. If you want us to put together options, minimum recommendation on levy as to what maybe 3 options for consideration would be, and we can walk our way through that for a bit. And answer any questions you have as you work your way through those options. And then take further direction from the commission if you're interested within a time frame to say, yeah, let's put something on the ballot. But then we can outline what that looks like, etc. So I think we're transitioning from the big picture from the fire to the police right now, and then we'll look for some direction in terms of what kind of options based on those overviews that we want to see.
Mr. Mayor, follow-up comment. So I think all along I've expressed this, and as was pointed out in the 2018 levy, or in the presentation, the 2018 levy added 6 personnel to HFD staffing. And at the same time, the fire department came to the commission in 2018. So did members of the police department asking for same amounts, but help meet the demand that 911 is putting on, and other pressures they're putting on their organization. So I guess in terms of sort of the hierarchy of prioritization, I'm really interested in HPD's needs. We had a sense, I guess, from the study that the consultant that came and presented to us, although there's a lot of data very quickly, but we had kind of a sense of, like, my takeaway from it was we're okay, we just need to fill those positions. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. I'm hoping to get a little more clarity, but I'm really looking to help HPD make sure they're squared away and support HFD. I get a good sense of HPD's pretty well set up because they've been asking for help for quite some time. So that's my position.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Any public comments on this stuff? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, I have no comment on it.
Yes. Thank you. Transportation systems, discussion of parking fees.
Mayor and Commission, as we discussed the other commission meeting, that there was some concerns brought up about the parking fees and was asked to bring this back to you. So we created the little infographic there to summarize some of the things that we had discussed in the last couple admin meetings. We're here to basically see what your concerns are now so that we can better address them and then come up with a plan moving forward to implement the fees or that are appropriate.
Thank you. Comments from the commission. You have it?
Right.
Mayor, I can go through the information on here for you if you'd like, and
Well, I guess my biggest thing I think would be, it'd be helpful, and we've asked these questions after these too, but I think maybe having a good idea of what some of the what the liabilities are within parking. And then also, I mean, I think a big piece of this is that we have a couple, we have it's particularly when we're talking about this parklet conversation, we have an intercap loan that was taken out a number of years ago for the new parking meter system. It's not paid for yet. We're subsidizing the parking budget to cover that with a reduction, since we do have an hour free in the lots and garages. And then essentially this conversation is can we afford to subsidize the loss of that revenue for those pieces? I know I'm interested in kind of finding a middle ground in terms of making it attainable for businesses to pursue them, but also being cognizant of the general fund contribution we're having to make, because parking does have these other liabilities that, you know, regardless of how this current commission feels about them, we're obligated to pay.
Mayor and Commissioners, so the general fund doesn't, at this time, doesn't make any contributions to parking. So we adjust our expense, when we see our expenses, we adjust our budgets to match our revenues. So we've had a constrained budget in the past couple of years because of the revenue shortfall. But I see Manager Burton has.
Your Commissioner, maybe a suggestion is that we bring this conversation back and review the budget, which is proprietary. There are policy decisions, some are long running, relative to intercap and construction of garages or free parking for periods throughout the day. And to what degree do we fund these? Right now, it's 100% through the proprietary parking fund. And what impact does that have on our ability to provide the service that we're expected to provide? And maybe what we should do is bring that back within the broad context of the operation, so that you can recognize what each of those policy decisions do, which I think then would give you a better footing. So let's do this or that. Thank you. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Any other comments from the commission?
Question. When would you like to have this decision made?
Mayor and Commission, right now, we weren't planning to implement the new parklet fees this season. So sometime in the late winter, early, probably late winter would be a great time to have that final decision on the fees. So we have plenty of time, even though it's hot out and we don't think of snow coming, but we have a few months to weeks to talk about this. We've got weeks.
Any other comments from the commission?
I just would be supportive of the approach you're taking here. I think that'll give us a lot better information to get to that decision.
Mr. Mayor, in addition to that, inviting our partners from downtown Helena and the businesses that are affected by the parklets, parklet fee, have them at least a part of the discussion. Looking at options for this, just like we are with other things, to look at options for fees for lots, garages, and or parklets. I think kind of a broader discussion with the folks that are affected by this, at least have them at the table in one capacity. I'm glad to see some here today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have any public comments on this topic?
My name's Mayor.
Please.
Thanks for having us today. My name's Bethany Flynn. I'm one of the managing partners for Blackfoot. We're one of the businesses with Parklet. We love the Parklet. I've seen many of these spaces there actually. We think it's a great value for downtown. We think it's important to our business. The Park Avenue block has tried really hard to make a walking mall as part of the push to do that. We get a lot of customers every day that say, what beautiful flower, thanks for taking care of the sidewalks, you're sweeping out every morning, work to keep things nice. We actually last year paid the $220 a month per spot for a period of time to do Parklet. It seemed in my opinion, an outrageous amount of money to spend for business. And that's for a couple of reasons, but ultimately we were able to have a great negotiation with our commission, and that fee was reduced considerably, and we really appreciate that. So this year, even though the park lot doesn't produce a ton of revenue for us, it's been more affordable and it's something that we can manage. One of the things, so this year we paid $2,500 for the season, just so you know. It's been really helpful. One of the things that we questioned about a flat fee of $2,500 is, well, what if we can't have our park let out for the whole period, 6 months that has been allocated for that season? And there was no plan or recourse for what we would do otherwise. So I think that's something to think about. And so our suggestion was, is there a way for us to be part of the city system that already exists, which is there's permit parking available to individuals. I think those permits maybe went up for the last commission meeting to $61 a space per month. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if that's absolutely correct. But that was the format that we thought would be most appropriate for business to pay. These spaces are open to the public. We maintain them, so it's not a huge cost, I don't think, to the commission. They might see it as a lot, but we see it as value added to town. So my hope in being here today is just to express that we hope we can keep the fees as affordable as possible. We want to pay for the space, but if it becomes too expensive, then the park lets we won't be able to encourage other businesses to.
And, I agree with Commissioner Shirley here when he says that hopefully the businesses will be a part of the discussion. And I think it's only befitting that they join in that discussion. So we will be looking.
Thank you.
Do we have it? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Conley here as the operations director for downtown Helena. And I will echo a lot of what Bethany from the Blackfoot has said, but also I'm just here to remind you that the city really gets credit for allowing this program in the first place, right? A lot of these businesses put in these parklets at the encouragement of either the BID or the city. And I would just really hate for them, now that we have them constructed, to go away, that they really do add a lot of value. And from what I understand, it is your job as the city commission to think about this larger picture, right? Not just the revenue that will be lost from parking, but also what they are adding, the economic value, the value in terms of quality of life. These are all the factors that should be considered when we're reviewing this. In terms of a timeline, while I agree that we do have time, I also would really encourage you to think about the fact that most businesses and everyone else is already planning ahead to 2024. And it can be difficult to grapple with uncertainty about trends and costs, right? So even though to you it seems like you have until the winter to make this decision, a lot of businesses are deciding right now whether they would like to pursue a parklet or whether they can potentially keep their parklet for the next summer. So I'm not saying you need to make a decision now, but I would encourage you to keep that in mind as you're thinking ahead here, right? That businesses need time to budget, they need time to plan, and they can't really live with this uncertainty about whether the fees could go up to as much as $7,500, which was a proposal at one point, or could be as minimal as whatever it was, 1,000, right? That's a huge span that you're talking about. So I think businesses need a little bit more before in order to proceed, especially the ones that are thinking about commissioning parklets this winter to put up in the spring. Because they're not going to do that unless they know what the fees are going to be. So that is just one point that I would make. In terms of the parking aspect, I really do think there's room here to get a little bit more creative about this. I'm not sure that the only solution is requiring businesses who are already contributing to downtown by putting up these parklets to subsidize the parking budget, right? I really think there are other options here. Just a couple of creative ideas off the top of my head. I understand that a great percentage of parking tickets go unpaid. You know, if we could get a system going to pay those online, how much revenue would that create? thinking more about whether the fees for garages need to be the same as street parking, right? Like, I think there are these broader conversations, which we're alluding to, that can be had, but I just don't see that the only solution here is charging businesses for all of the revenue they are supposedly losing by having these parklets.
A little point of correction there. Now, they're not subsidizing the park. And they're not doing is subsidize, asking businesses to support the budget, all of it. So we're
I
going to
would-
be discussing it and we'll be looking at it.
I would say I think it's important to consider the message that this is sending to businesses, right? Which is, at face value, it does sound like they are being charged for something because parking needs the money, right? That's how it sounds. And I think that can be a discouraging message.
Businesses are being charged for the parking they're using. However, we're going to be looking at it. Do you have any other public comments on this topic?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission on whatever? Yes, sir.
Commission, city staff. My name is Kevin Ham. I'm with Montana Pride, and I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thanks for helping us put together the 30th annual Pride celebration here in Helena a couple weeks ago that went off 99% without a hitch. So we had a ton of people come in from all over the Northwest. We had people as far away as Las Vegas, Seattle, and Calgary here that I know of. I don't know if we had more people out there. It was a very busy week for me. We had over 60 events that happened throughout the week. We had events all over town. We had just an amazing time. We had 4 people protest, and their protest consisted of them walking up and down the walking mall trying to find a place that they wouldn't get yelled at by people with rainbow and glitter. And they couldn't find one, so they left fairly quickly. So that was very nice. The police were awesome. Having a crossing guard was great. They're holding 3 of your vests. I'll get them back to you shortly. The waste management putting out the extra dumpsters where we asked for them made a huge difference because we were able to clean up the street. Actually, the participants of the street drag show cleaned it up because we asked them to, so it was cleaner after the show than it was when we were setting up the stage. Our parade went off without a hitch, other than the police at one point picked up our signs and panicked one of my volunteers because somebody stole our signs in a white truck. It was very bizarre, but we got them back. And most everything was good, other than getting the permits on Friday morning, 2 hours before we got permission from the court to do everything. It was slightly stressful. So, but thank you so much for everything that happened and how it went off, because it was really good. And for not being able to do the normal advertising that we did, we ended up being about the same size as last year, which was really good. And the weather held off because, gays are in charge of the weather. So.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment on that.
Any final comments from the commission? Meeting is adjourned.